Good evening, everyone. Chris Durrell here with patreon.com/Jagerbombs, where you can head over and either get your free trial, or you can get over for $10 a month, sign up to the NASCAR package, get you access to our Discord chat, our Discord NASCAR only channels, get you access to our one-on-one coaching with Dane, myself. Kenny is amazing if you want to talk to him about multi-entering with NASCAR. Absolutely awesome there. Dane, how's it going? It's been a while. I think I calculated before we went on the air here, it's been about 6 or 7 weeks since me and you did a show together. So how are things?
Yeah, it's been good. It has been a while. I think it was really the week or couple weeks before the big 2-week Olympic break or whatever it was for NASCAR since we've done a show. So yeah, excited
Yeah,
to be back. Everybody will have a little bit more time to digest this leading up to lock tomorrow.
yeah, exactly. So we're doing the show. If you're tuning in here, it's a Saturday night. Probably, not expecting a whole bunch of viewers. We kind of pushed this to tonight over tomorrow. I wanted to do the show with you and get your thoughts as we get into the playoff season here for NASCAR. We're going to talk about that here in a little bit. So if you've missed the show, a lot of you are probably watching this Sunday morning. So if you have questions, if anything has changed, make sure to hit us up in the Discord chat or myself up. If you're a DFSR customer over in the DFSR chat, I will be in there as well. So inspection type things. Because the lineup is set. We're going to turn it over to the sheet here in a minute. We are in Michigan. So we're finally done with these road courses. Well, besides Charlotte road course in the playoffs, but we've gone through 6 road courses. So it's nice to get away from that. We are now moving into Michigan 2-mile track. Here's a look at the playoff grid. I wanted to bring this up, first of all, because it is quite interesting. I've sorted it by wins. We've got 2 races left. We've got this week at Michigan. We've got next week at the Daytona. So outside of the wins here, we got Hamlin and Harvick, who pretty much locks on points, whether they win or not. They're going to be in the playoffs. And the interesting on the next couple of weeks is going to be Tyler Reddick and Austin Dillon specifically. Reddick sits with 666 points, and Dillon with 638. So only 28-point difference. So that's quite huge. If you had to pick one of those two, how do you see this shaking out this week? Because I see, first of all, my opinion on these two, I see Dillon having the better week this week, but I know Reddick is very good at Daytona. I know Dillon is too. I've seen him win there live, but I think Reddick has been very good there as well. So I think both have a great opportunity to get in here. It's going to be huge if one of them gets a win or if someone outside of them gets a win.
Yeah, that would be quite wild. And we almost saw it last week with Briscoe.
Yep.
But yeah, I
Before
think
he went off-roading.
Yeah, it kind of seems like Reddick keeps having a little advantage each week on Austin Dillon. I don't know what that reason is, but as far as at the end of the stages, they're always in the front getting stage points, and Austin Dillon is a few spots behind him, trying to just stay on, not lose too many during the stages. But if I had to pick one, I think with the races that we have left, I would go Reddick.
Yeah, I like it, and especially with the 28-point buffer there. He needs to have a real bad race and Dillon to have a real good one, for them to get even close. So these stages are going to be huge, stage 1 and stage 2, and kind of the strategy that plays out there for them. The other strategy that's going to be huge that we need to pay attention to again this week is the battle for first overall, which is 15 playoff points. And these playoff points, we've seen it in this new structure since stage racing has come on. These playoff points can be huge. You can literally crash in like the first stage of the first race of the first round, and it's really not a big deal if you're top, let's say top 3, top 4, and you got all those bonus points as a buffer. 2 can really hurt you unless you're like way out there in front in terms of those playoff points. So this is going to be huge down the stretch. I think after last race, where do we got here? Kyle Larson 953, then Denny Hamlin is right up there 931. It's crazy to think that Denny Hamlin is fighting for the regular season lead here, despite the 0 wins, and Larson has 5. Only 22 points differential there. So that could be huge, when it comes to the end of these stages. Whether, I know road course was a little bit different last week because we did see those guys, maybe pit a little bit early, or a lot of guys pitting early where they're staying out to make sure they get those stage points. So keep that in mind, but it's not something I'm looking at in terms of DFS strategy.
Yeah, exactly.
So moving on here, we're looking at the DFS side of things. Kyle Larson is number 1 in pricing this week by, what do we got here? 700 over Kyle Busch. Starting on the pole, he won here 3 times. The second race in 2016, 2017, he won both those races. One of them, he only led a few laps. I believe that was the second race in 2017. And then the other one, he dominated from the pole. So he's been very good here at Michigan. He obviously didn't race last year on suspension, but his last race here, he was a third. So what are your thoughts on him as like, I think we're going to need personally 2 dominators, probably in the range. There's 200 laps. So I'm probably looking for like 80 to 100 from the top dominator. For me, that's Larson. Obviously, he's like the best driver at NASCAR this season, and he's starting on the pole at one of his best tracks. So that seems pretty simple to me. He's going to be super chalk. So that's definitely one direction I'm going, but I'm looking for 2 dominators. What are your overall thoughts on your builds and Larson in general?
Yeah, I mean, with Larson, I think, and the most lineups I'd be doing is the 20 max this week, and I don't see me making a team without him. I just we've seen him priced higher than this during the year, and we were still playing him when he was on that run of winning every race there for quite a few weeks. And now, like you said, he comes to a track that he's had great success here in the past, able to run that high groove as it comes in. And he's starting on the pole. I don't see any way that he's not a dominator at some point in this race, and probably early on in the race. And like you said, I'm looking for 2 dominators as well. So he's definitely going to be one in every team that I make. Second, I think we do have enough value that you can play Kyle Busch. Kyle Busch would be the number 2 for me. I know he's second priced, but he would be the number 2 dominator for me. He's been very good here in the past as well, shown some good speed on these type of tracks as well this year. And then other than that, up in the top of pricing, I think William Byron is very interesting. He has a little bit of place differential, and he's been good with this package as well this year. And what are your thoughts on Denny Hamlin? I mean, he's keeps knocking on that door for a win, and just can't seem to get one lately.
Yeah, I'm on board with Hamlin here. I'm actually on board with the Toyotas in general, to be honest with you. I do have Larson as like my number 1 here, and I punched in 96 projected laps led for him just simply because that's how many laps led he needs. There, to be honest, looking back at like fast laps in correlation with laps led, there really isn't a lot of fast laps that are going. They're very, very spread out, so I'm not really looking at that as a projection this week. So 96 laps led gets him to 6x if he wins. So that's kind of why I got that punch in there. He is my top dominator. As in my second dominator, it's very interesting. I like Truex down here in the 5 spot. He's cheap, first of all. That kind of sways me a little bit. But he's first in the overall model. He's got 4th or better here, 4th, 3rd, and 3rd in 4 straight races. I believe he's got 200 laps. So he's 3rd in laps led over the last 10 races here to Kevin Harvick, who's been dominant, Joey Logano. So you got Kevin Harvick, who has 3 straight wins, and 4 of the last 5 races here he's won. Is it different this year because he hasn't won yet this year for you? Like these other years, he's always had wins coming into Michigan, it seems. Kind of been dominant throughout the season. So is it a little bit different for you this year, or do you think he can get up there and possibly dominate? I just like Truex a little bit cheaper, $600 cheaper. When it comes to FanDuel, I'm probably going to lean Harvick because he's a cheaper than Truex and Elliott here. But on DraftKings, it's got to be Truex in the 5 spot for me as my second dominator.
Yeah, I think Harvick's going to be the odd man out for me. Like you said, I just don't like what we're seeing out of him overall this year. I don't. It's not in the realm of possibility in my eyes. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But to me, I don't see him going out here and leading half the race or even a quarter of the race with the speed that they've shown overall. I think the Toyotas and the Chevrolets have shown a lot more speed and ability to dominate races. So, yeah, like you said, I like the value dominator potential of Martin Truex and Chase Elliott at 9,200, starting on the front row with Larson. He could lead at some point in this race, and he's pretty cheap. I do like Truex more, but those are nice lower price dominators that you can pair with Kyle Larson. And because of their price, they don't have to lead quite as much as they would if they were up there where Kyle Busch is. you're playing Kyle Busch, I think you're hoping that he does lead quite a bit of this race along with Kyle Larson.
I agree with you there. Just looking at the matrix here, Kyle Busch was 0 laps led, so to 0 dominator points, doesn't even hit 5x with a win. So he's most definitely going to need dominator points if you're playing Kyle Busch this week. 50 laps led gets you close to 6x, so keep that in mind. He doesn't need a whole bunch of laps to really hit that top value for him. So 0 is no good, but if he only leads 50, that's fine. I think even 40, 40 gets us just shy of 6x, so I'm totally fine with that as well. Now, the interesting part about this top tier, and Liz kind of brought it up just yelling Joey, and I love it, is that was one of my questions to you. And I think I know your answer because you mentioned William Byron. But we've got 3 guys in Byron, Logano, and Keselowski who started 18th, 19th, and 20th, all excellent in terms of place differential. If we're talking about course history, I'm thinking PGA here. Track hit, Logano has most definitely been the most consistent, as you can tell with all these top 10s, 2 wins here in the last 10 races. Keselowski has been like a roller coaster ride, and then Byron only has 1 top 10 in what do we got, 6 races here. So for me, Logano is my favorite of those 3. He's probably going to be the highest owned because he's the cheapest. He's been the most consistent. I think I like what you said with Byron. I think he's going to come with some low ownership because you've got Larson, Kyle Busch, Hamlin. You got Harvick with his track history here as well. I think Byron, even starting 18th, is going to be not only the lowest of those 3 place differential, but I think he may even be one of the lowest of these top, what do we got, 6, 7 drivers here.
Yeah, I think if I had to rank those 3 for me, that it would be Byron, Logano, and then Brad. As far as ownership, I would think just because Byron's a little over 10K that he would come a little lower on than those 2. But you could see a scenario where people are just used to playing these Hendrick cars and they just keep piling on Byron. And if that's the case, then you would want to be on probably Logano. But the way that I'm going to go off my thoughts is that Byron's going to come in a touch lower on, not anything drastic. And I would rather have that equipment that he's been in this year.
Yeah, and that equipment showing like you could see these guys, any of them come up and lead some laps near the end, and you give any 5 to 10, 15 laps led to any of these guys that give you this place differential value back here as well. They're most definitely going to be in their optimal lineup. So if you can get a car with Byron and they get their car tuned up and they get up there and lead those laps at the end of the race, maybe not win, but get some laps led in there at some point. That can be huge to getting them into the optimal lineups for sure. Stan's got Larson to win. He wants Hamlin to win though. Okay, so we got a Hamlin fan in the house, but I'm a Kyle Busch fan. But yeah, I'm in the same boat with you, Stan, where it's just Kyle Larson. You pretty much have to pick him. Like this is the week. If there was a week to pick Larson, this would be it. And 20 max, I'm kind of with you, Dane. Where I think if you want, I personally would either be all in on Larson this week or all out on Larson if I was doing 20 max. Just to kind of either have more than the field. I don't want to have the same amount as the field, or you're going to have to be absolutely perfect with your lineup. So it really just depends on how you want to build your lineups. But if you want to do both, go in 220 maxes. Do 120 max full on Larson and one, which I think is a little more risky, fading Larson. Do another 20 max fading Larson and go down to like the 25-cent range or whatever and find a 20 max, or $1 range if you're doing the $5 or the $4 for the the 100% going with Larson in your lineup. So you can definitely go there.
Yeah.
Hey, Casey, how's it going?
Yeah. Hey, Casey, I know that it's risky, to do, but it's a scenario that, and I did this earlier in the year at one of the races and just locked him in. I think I've done it a couple times. One time
I remember it. We talked about it early.
Yeah, one time it worked, and one time it didn't. But the time that I did, he was 50, 60% owned. He's going to be 50, 60% on this week.
Yep.
And it still feels really good when he leads. You get through about half or 3/4 of the race and he's led a bunch of laps, and you look at pull up DraftKings and all of your lineups are just scattered across cashing because you have him locked in and you're just building the other 5 spots. So
Yep.
it definitely can pay off if he leads. Obviously, it's a part of the risk taking, and I don't like playing around with trying to min cash and be perfect with the rest of my lineup, like you said.
Yeah, if I'm playing GPP, I want to go for the win. So it's that's kind of the way I've built my lineups. I a larger player pool because I like this guy and I like that guy, and that's what happened. Was you may have one good week a year, but most weeks you're either just losing, breaking even, or just barely winning, and it's just that's fine if that's what you're looking to do, is kind of have that extension through the season, and you want to just carry your bankroll, put $100 in at the start of the year, and you're playing low dollar amounts, and you just want to carry that bankroll without having to deposit through the season. That's fine. If you're looking to win a GPP, though, there's definitely some strategy that you can use every week in terms of how you build your lineups, so that you hit once and it makes up in your profit for the season, or you hit twice and you're sitting on really good profit. And you can start climbing your entry levels. If you're playing in the $5-10 level of your tournaments, you can now jump up a little bit once you hit that second win, GPP win, or even the way you build with your cores. Sometimes it doesn't even take a win. If you get like 5-10 lineups that cash in the top 10% of the tournament, you're still going to have some good profit there as well. And you do that a few times and just get some good profit. You don't even need a win in GPP to really build that bankroll up with 2 or 3 really good performances. So I do like building those cores, just like you said. It is a little more risky. If Larson goes out, you might as well shut the TV off, go mow the lawn.
Right.
But when he wins, you know that you've got 20 chances to hit the optimal lineup. If you spread the rest of your guys out a little bit, that's going to be a little bit better. So,
I mean, and just think about it. His odds are giving him like an implied 26% chance to win this race.
Right. Yep.
And the second highest is Kyle Busch, and that's giving him like a 11% chance to win at 8-1.
Huge difference.
Yeah, I mean that's just massive. So, and we've seen it week in and week out. But we can move on. We've kind of harped on it. I feel like.
Yeah, we went over the top tier for sure, and I think we're kind of on the same page, except for those couple guys that we're going to pivot to. You like Byron, I like Logano a little bit more in terms of those guys, but we're pretty close there. Truex, we kind of feel is like your secondary dominator. Really good value for that dominator spot, and Chase Elliott's right there as well. Both of those guys are in excellent equipment, better equipment than these price tags, that's for sure. I didn't think we would see where those two would be below Keselowski and Logano. They're even Harvick for the season that he's had. But so from there, I guess we go into this mid-range, and that's where it kind of gets a little bit murky, a little bit for me. There's a lot of place differential here, but it's which one you really want to go after. And I think this is a point where if you're in your 20 max, where I would maybe mix in, if you're going with, say, cores of these top 2 guys, and you're going like, say, 5 lineups with, say, a Logano and Larson core, you can come down here and grab 2 of these guys in the mid-range, and then just keep switching up 2, 2, 2, and just keep changing up that order so you're not overexposed to this mid-range and all this place differential. How are you looking at the mid-range?
Yeah, there's some definite great options that are starting in the mid to high 20s. I think it's got to start with Christopher Bell and Austin Dillon. I don't know where else you could start talking about this range. 8,100 and 8,000, starting 28th and 26th. We mentioned before that we like the JGR cars tomorrow with Truex, Hamlin, and Kyle Busch. So why not throw one in that's starting 28th? I think he's a great play. And then Austin Dillon starting 26 needs a really good finish here. I would expect what are your thoughts on that? Do you think they are trying to – I guess they're trying to fully point race in, but if they got to a situation where they're in a situation that they could take a chance on pit road and try to win, do you think they would do that?
I don't.
Okay.
I think they're fully setting their race strategy up tomorrow, in that they're going to try and finish inside the top 10 of both the first 2 stages for sure. I would bet that that's their the way that they're looking at it, is get as many points early on as possible and just kind of see where it goes from there. If something happens that Reddick doesn't get any points and they get points in the first 2, they may take a shot with something maybe in the final stage to try and get that win. But again, I can just try and see them trying to skirt in that 5th to 10th range they'd be super excited with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's probably the right thought for sure.
And on Bell, I'm with you. As that's the top guy in this range is Christopher Bell. He's in that top equipment like we talked about, and then the math side of things. Looking at the matrix, he gets
Mhm.
5x 40.5 points. That is a 16th place finish. So Bell with a 16th place finish, I think is awesome. That gives you a ton of upside. A top 10 finish for Bell would get you in that 52 range. You're looking at in the range of 6 to 7x return with upside of 8 possibly. I mean, not, but I would gladly take 5x from him with 7x up. So Austin Dillon, I think if we're going looking at the track history, like Bell has looked good, 13th and 17th here. Dillon has had some top 10s along the way, a little bit up and down, but he most definitely gives you top 10 upside. And starting 26th, we're looking at getting 32 to 40 points from him. So that is in the range of a 19th to 14th, and he's got top 10 upside. He's done it at this track before. He's done it this season. So just another guy we're going to get 6 to 7 upside. And there's not a lot of guys in the field, to be honest with you, that have realistic 6 to 7x upside. Both of those guys, I believe, do.
Yeah, for sure. So they're definitely the chalkier plays in the top plays in the range, but there are some pivots right below it, and you have a couple highlighted as GPP plays. You have Suarez and Priest highlighted there, and I'm going to throw my favorite one is probably in the sandwiched in between them. And I said right when I came on the show that I had the perfect shirt on, the watermelon shirt for
I
Ross
love it.
Chastain, starting 22nd, and I think where this comes into play, and we've seen this before, ever so often during the year, you'll have these place differential plays bust, or at least one of them or two. And if you're playing, say you play Bell and Chastain instead of Bell and Dillon, and Austin Dillon and Suarez and Priest kind of underwhelm, and Chastain finishes 16th or 15th, he could outdo those guys and really pay off. I know he's 7,700, probably a little more expensive than you want, but he's been decent at times this year. I felt like they were kind of hitting their stride at some points, but he's a guy
Oh,
that's
yeah.
got to be aggressive and try to win. He's got to win to get in the playoffs. So starting 22nd, I think he does have some upside if he can get just outside the top 10. I mean, he's shown that type of upside before this year.
I'm with you. I'm going to be a little bit lower on him. Most of his top performances, just scrolling back through this, are like flat tracks and road courses. But no, I'm with you 100% in terms of game theory here. Thinking that a couple of these guys underwhelm. If those guys underwhelm and aren't going to hit like that 5x threshold, yeah, and he gets 10th to 15th, he's most definitely going to be a low owned driver that could be end up in like the top lineups, like your optimal lineups tomorrow. So I love that pivot. I didn't even think about that, honestly. He'd be a little bit deeper down my rankings, but again, if we're talking GPP leverage, that is most definitely a good play because he's going to be, I bet you, 5%, maybe less. I don't know. He's got experience here, nothing great, but again, he has shown top 10 upside, 5th to 10th upside in that car all season. So yeah, I'm with you there. The reason I had Suarez and Priest and think they're going to be higher owned, obviously, is the place differential, them starting 30th and 32nd. In that mid range, what are your thoughts on Almirola? I definitely like Almirola. FanDuel a little bit more at 7K. I think that's a steal for him. He finished 6th here last year. He's been pretty consistent lately. Let's just look at his finishes. 19th. So these are road courses. So sometimes looking at the current form can be a little bit cloudy because we're coming off of 2 road courses, a flat track, a mile and a half, and another road course. So we've got to look into that, but he has shown upside. He's got that win in there as well. He has been running a lot better. So what are your thoughts on him? I think he is, 10th to 15th upside and probably 15th to 20th place floor, 18th to 20th floor, I'd say.
Yeah, I would probably throw him into a similar strategy type bucket if you're going to play him, he falls into the same type of category as Chastain.
Mm-hmm.
But just as you probably need one of those other guys to underwhelm to get there, but he is in pretty good equipment, and that team has been good here in the past as well. Not just him, obviously, with Harvick, but I think I will be underweight on him. I don't know what he's going to come in ownership wise. I would expect somewhere 10%. I mean, I would either be right at the field or underweight, I think.
Yeah, that's where I'm at with him. I've kind of got these guys in this range ranked for me. Bell's right at the top. Dillon would be number 2 for me. Then Almirola, probably Priest, Suarez, and then Chastain is kind of the way I got those guys in that mid-range ranked. They're going to be kind of, I guess Bell would be up there. It's kind of like a core play for me where I'm going to have probably 40 to 60% in my lineups. Dillon just below that, probably 40. What did I say? 40 to 60%. So probably 40 to 50% somewhere in there. A little bit lower on Almirola, and just kind of keep dropping that down a little bit, depending on how many lineups you're doing. You want to extrapolate that out or whatever. But that's the way I'm looking at ranking those guys. And then just kind of moving on down into this bottom range. And this is why we can get a couple of these top drivers, because we can mix it in with a couple of these mid-range guys and then a couple of these bottom guys. So for myself, my favorite guy going all the way down, he's starting 24th, is Corey LaJoie at 5,600. Down in this bottom range, I'd say maybe mid-7 and down. I'm completely fine with 4 to 5x return on these guys, especially if we're talking a punt play in LaJoie. So we're looking for 22 to 28 points from him, which is going to be in the range of a 19th to 22nd place finish. I think that is completely doable for LaJoie. He's done it here, 23rd or better in 4 straight. So he's had some success here, given the car that he's in at this track. And then just looking at his current form, he's finished 16th, 24th, 23rd, 22nd, 21st, 23rd. So he's right around 20th to 23rd place kind of car. So I'm definitely with that price for him, and it allows us to really go up and spend for 2 of those top guys. Who's your favorite guy down here?
So my favorite full-on punt is going to be the same guy that I give you pretty much every week. So Anthony Alfredo.
I knew it.
Starting 35th. I don't see again how I don't play some of him.
Yes,
I
I'm
mean,
with you.
he's probably got 20th place upside, which is nothing spectacular. But if he finishes 20th with 15 place differential, I mean, might need him with what some of those guys up top could do. That can really allow you to get in Larson and Kyle Busch if you wanted, or whoever else you want to pair with Larson up top. So Alfredo for sure for me is my favorite punt. But if you look kind of from him up to all the way back up to Priest, it's kind of a tougher range because a lot of those guys are starting a little bit farther forward than you would want. I think my favorite out of that group right now would either be Cole Custer or Chase Briscoe, just because they're starting a little bit farther back than the others, honestly. If you can sell me on any of the others, I would happily play some. And I'm going to have some of that range in GPPs building 20 max. But really the rest of them that are starting in that top 15, like Bubba Wallace starting 15th, I mean, he needs to finish right around where he's starting, and he would be fine for you. And I think that's doable. I think Chris Buescher could start or could finish right around where he's starting, just outside the top 10. But you need quite a bit to go right there. I mean, you need some of those place differential plays to disappoint a little more than expected. But that's why I'll have a little bit of those guys, because just in case that they do, if Priest disappoints, wrecks out, or just finishes 27th, I mean, he's not going to be on the winner. Same thing with all those guys in the range just above them. If they all flare out and finish in the mid to upper 20s, right around where they're starting, something happens to them during the race, a top 15 from Ricky Stenhouse or Chris Buescher or Bubba Wallace is going to be enough for you.
I agree. To be honest, Alfredo's my favorite value play, my favorite punt play. After I thought about it, but I had a bet with my wife. I told her, well, it's not really a bet because she wouldn't have given me $100, but I told her I'd give her $100 if you said someone other than Anthony Alfredo. So, that was a close one. Still got to go shopping tomorrow. But yeah, he he's got 25th, 26th place upside, and I don't think it's crazy for him to get to those levels. And we are looking for about 29 points for him to hit 5x, and I'd be absolutely thrilled. That's 24th. And I think he could possibly hit that top 20 if everything goes right and give us 6x. If you can get 6x return from anyone below 7K, they're most definitely going to be in the optimal lineup, and he gives us that kind of realistic upside. So I like him and LaJoy down here. And I was actually going to ask you, Custer, and who was the other one? Briscoe, because of their place differential. I like Custer a little more. Obviously, he's only $300 more. He's got 6 more place differential, a little more experience here in a Cup car. So I lean there, Custer over Briscoe. But I was actually going to ask you who else you like in this range, because I don't have anyone. I like your arguments that if those place differential guys underwhelm, Custer, Briscoe, even down to Alfredo, who I think is going to take on some ownership, even LaJoy, just with the fact that people are going to want Larson for sure, and they're going to want to pair him with another expensive guy. So then you're down in this range instantly. If those guys underwhelm down here and only give you, let's say, 3.5 to 4x return, I could definitely see a driver in, like you said, a Buescher giving you like a 10th to 12th place finish, Bubba finishing 12th to 15th. I don't really see Eric Jones, but those two for sure. Maybe even Ricky Stenhouse in there, 34 points. So that's an 11th place finish, which that's just one spot ahead of his starting spot to get him 5x. That 5x will most definitely be good from these guys that are starting top 15 down here. If these other guys, don't have good days and give you even 3 to 4x, just over 4x, I don't think it's going to be enough if Ricky Stenhouse finishes 11th and gives you 5. So he's just not that much more expensive. So I definitely like that for GPP. We're always looking for ways in NASCAR with a limited field to not only tell you who our favorite plays are, but who, if you're building multiple lineups and you don't want to have 70% of Chase Briscoe or 70% of Anthony Alfredo and really take that risk on these guys to spread out your value plays, definitely mix in these guys that give you realistic potential to be in that winning or optimal lineup. Doesn't have to be the winning lineup necessarily if you're just looking to cash, if you're playing double ups and stuff. But if you're building lots of lineups, definitely consider some of these guys, and don't be afraid of these top 15 starting positions. It's more of a game theory thing where these other high-owned value plays are going to underperform.
Yeah, so it's what just kind of going off that when I've not built yet, but when I get to that price range and building my 20 max, it's going to be a situation that I'm not going to force any of those in to any number of lineups, but I'm going to try to cap them off at being in 2 lineups, 2 to 3 with some of them. And just if they pop in there and I land right on that range and I need somebody at 6,400 and it's Bubba Wallace, sure, go there. I think the ones that I won't have exposure to would be Eric Jones for sure. I think I'll be fading him. But other than that, I would probably do that with, let's see, Bubba Wallace, Buescher. I'll probably will force him Briscoe a touch into a couple at least. Newman, I'll do the same thing. I probably won't have any DiBenedetto. And then Tyler Reddick, I'll definitely have some of him at 7,400 because you had said, they need a really good finish. They're going to try to keep their nose clean and finish right around where they're starting. So I think that he definitely falls into that category that he could pay off if the place differential disappoints.
Yep. I wanted your take now on. I've had a few people ask. Someone asked during the baseball show yesterday, actually, and I didn't have time to think about it or even know where he started. Justin Haley at 5,100, starting 17th. Seems like, okay, that would be a not bad punt, but honestly, he, 20 to 25 points is what we're looking for. That is a 20th to 17th to 20th place finish. If we go look at kind of what he's done in that 77 car this season, coming off Indy, I think this is why people maybe are thinking about it, he's coming off an 8th place finish at the Indy road course. Before that, in the 77 car, he's gone 29th, 28th, 29th, 25th, 25th, 27th. I'm seeing a pattern here going all the way back to the start of the season. He hasn't finished better than 24th since his 8th place finish at Daytona. So he just bookended a whole season with 8th place finishes, kind of circling around that 27th to 32nd place finishes. So I just really don't see it. A lot would have to go right, I think, for him getting there. I hope he takes ownership. I'm just not on this week.
Yeah, I mean, I'll make it simple. I've done this every single race of the year except maybe Daytona, Talladega, and some of the road courses from LaJoy down. Just don't play any of them.
I
That's
like it.
what I've done all year, except for like I said, Daytona, Talladega, or maybe a road course. I think I have played a little of some of those guys at road courses.
All right, so now we kind of go over some drivers. Until I start seeing some questions here, one thing I wanted to do was go over some contests for this week on DraftKings. First of all, you got the $15 engineer up top. It's a 100K payout to first. The $4 Chrome Horn is what I'm going to be going in. The 20 max, and then probably going to be looking at. Let's just narrow this down to just NASCAR Sunday. Bring this down here. So you got some double ups. If you want to play double ups, there's quite a few single entries. That's the way I'm looking at. If you are just looking for just single entry, go up to the search bar. Easiest way to find it, just type in single. It's going to show you all the single entries here. I like to make one main lineup, and then I'll enter that into single entries. And then for my 20 max, I'll take that, remove 2 drivers, and then build like 5 lineups, mixing those drivers around, and then remove 2 different drivers, and then do the same thing. So then there's kind of 10 lineups, and then I'm going to build another core of 3 or 4 drivers for the following 10 lineups. So, question from Stan: any interest in McDowell as a punt?
Yes.
Starting,
Yeah.
you are interested.
He would actually be second, I think. Well, I don't very close with LaJoy. They're very close, but yeah, I will have, and I forgot to mention him, but I'll definitely have exposure to him. Him and LaJoy seem like identical plays to me, but
I like that. No, that's a good take. I was kind of off of McDowell. You're looking for a 19th place finish out of him, but yeah, you're right. He's only $400 more than LaJoy, who we talked about starting only 1 place ahead. So he gives you that 1 extra place differential at only $400 more. So yeah, I could see that mixing in kind of the same ownership of LaJoy and McDowell. I'd probably have a little bit more Alfredo of those 3, but then yeah, it's going to be pretty close between LaJoy and McDowell. So good question, Stan. Driver I hadn't thought about yet. So, all right. So what I wanted to look at, obviously we looked at some contests, how to search for those. I had a couple people ask if you're looking for just 3 max, just type in 3 and put in. Oh no, we want. How do we find that? See, I can't even do it. I had it up earlier. No, maybe. Oh, 3 entry. There we go. 3 entry. So there's your 3 entry maxes for this week. So just a little bit quicker way to find the contests that you're looking for each and every week, not just the ones that they post at the top with the stars. Those are the ones they want you to go in. So definitely finding the right contest is huge. And if you want more help with that, hit us up in chat or ask the questions as well. So looking at building now, you had mentioned Larson and Kyle Busch. So if you put those 2 most expensive drivers in, that leaves us 6,900. So now we come down in this range, and if you put in
my boy Pasta, yeah,
put Pasta there, and then let's say you're left with 7,300. So I mean, there's a couple different ways to go here. You can go with another cheap guy, and they're showing LaJoy out. Why is a DraftKings showing LaJoy out? Gonna have to look into that one. Did you see any news on LaJoy being out?
I've been out of pocket a lot of the
day. I missed the afternoon.
I'll check real quick.
I'll go into the NASCAR news and chat here and see what Bob says. See if I can get through any of this. I'm not.
Oh, Josh Berry's in that car.
There we go. Josh Berry. Okay. So we sat here and talked about LaJoy. If you listen to the first 35 minutes of the video, please just pretend that we knew and we were just playing along with you now. So do you have any interest in Josh Berry? I think we give him a price here. Yeah, he's going to be scored from the 24th position, but with the driver change, I'm assuming he is going to the rear to start the race. So do you have any interest in that at all?
What price is he?
56.
So the same as LaJoy.
Yeah, exact same price.
Well, I mean, that definitely makes it easy to rank those guys, Alfredo, McDowell, Berry now.
Yeah.
But I'll have him, but not very much, honestly. I'll probably max him at 2 lineups out of a 20 max.
Yeah, I think for me, it just comes down to more McDowell.
Yeah.
Whoops, let's put that back there now. We're just more Alfredo and McDowell now. Sorry about that, everyone.
I don't even. I've
Did
been
you see
so
why
out of
he's out? Yeah, I've been
COVID.
out of pocket all day too, and then I usually do this research on the drivers and stuff the night before, like instead of doing the show. But here we are. So, um,
Yeah, he had. Yeah, franchise says he has COVID too. Yeah, that's what I saw.
okay.
But how did he do in the Xfinity race today? Because I know he was in that. Let's
Well,
see.
I'm just gonna have to
See,
bring
that's
that up
how
here.
out of pocket I've been.
You've been
Oh,
enjoying your Saturday.
he finished fourth in the one car today.
He
So
looked.
at least he
I
has a
watched a
little
portion of the
more.
race, and he looked good.
Yeah, sure.
He looked.
I'll
What
I'll
did they
have
say?
some.
Dale Jr. esque. He passed
Oh,
about 5 cars, and it looked like he had an extra cylinder. The portion of the race that I watched, it was pretty awesome seeing him go around the outside. So yeah, I'd probably throw him in a few. I will update that on the main sheet here once the show is over tonight, and I'll have that updated on there. So I don't want to put him in there, but we'll just go McDowell. So a couple of different ways to go. You can go 2 top guys, 2 guys down in this punt range, and you're left with 7,900. That's kind of in this Christopher Bell and like Suarez, Chastain, and Priest range now. So that build goes together really well. Or you can just jump right into this. You can get Custer. You had mentioned maybe getting some Reddick in there. We got Briscoe down here as well if you want to go with that route that we talked
yeah,
about with place differential.
yeah. Try the. So show how
And then
much
you
of
get
a
Bell.
difference it is if you take out. Wow, that looks good. But
Yeah, I
um,
like that one right
take,
there.
take out Kyle Busch and put in Truex and see how much of a difference that gives us there.
And then we were Alfredo, and that's 7,700 right there with that 3 driver core.
That would be.
Um,
See, we wouldn't even need a second. If you had the second punt, you could do it. McDowell, you could play McDowell, but then you could come in that range and just pick any of. Well, what do you have? 8,800? Does that say 88?
77 right there. So I mean, you can come and pick Bell, Almirola, 2 of those guys that we talked about in that Bell,
Oh yeah,
Almirola, Dillon range. And then you're down to 6,900 again. Then you got that Stenhouse, Briscoe, Busher, Bubba, McDowell. If you want to leave money on the table, you can go all the way down to McDowell. So there's a lot of ways to build here for sure.
yeah. So as we keep playing around there and landing in that range that we said we weren't in love with, but that we would have exposure to, it just keeps coming to me that these guys, not all of those guys are going to bust either. Like from
Right.
Reddick down to Busher or to Bubba, all
Yep.
those guys are not going to finish in the 20s. I mean, they could.
No,
I don't see it
the
happening. Like
odds
I
of it.
see at
Yes.
least one of them finishing around where they start and being enough for you. So if you're able to pick the right one as your last spot when you land in that range, that's could be the key. And that's why I'll have almost equal exposure across that range.
Yeah, I definitely like that for sure. When you're talking about these value guys, if 4 or 5 of them are going to be maybe top 10 or top 12 in ownership, you don't want to have like 3 of them, I don't think, in your builds. It just leads to a lot of chalk lineups where, just like you said, not all of them are going to, perform at projected or even better than projected. So spreading that out a little bit not only separates you from the field, but it also becomes maybe a little bit more realistic of a build in there as well. It seems that just in terms of ownership, a lot of people will go away from, like we talked about, these guys starting top 15 down in this value range, when it really, in actuality, doesn't take a whole lot to go right for them or wrong for others for them to all of a sudden become optimal plays. So I definitely like that as well. Now, last thing I wanted to discuss was a couple of PrizePicks plays, values that I think stand out. First of all, we got Kyle Larson, just too risky for me in terms of PrizePicks. He needs to finish first or second. I know I've got him to win the race, but I just don't think we need to go there in terms of PrizePicks and that sort of risk. I like Truex needing a sixth or better a lot. Now, when in terms of Kyle Larson, if he does lead laps, because you do get 0.01 points for PrizePicks per lap led, So if he gets his, 100 laps or whatever, he's going to get those bonus points enough to put him over where a third place finish. So think about that. If you do like Larson as a dominator, you're probably only going to need a third place or better rather than a second place or better. But I like Truex sixth place or better here. Logano ninth or better seems like a shoe in for me. Liz, I'm with you there for sure with Logano. He's finished ninth or better in 3 of his last 4, 5 of his last 6, 10th in that other one there. It's just been very consistent in terms of that. I like Hamlin 7th or better. He's been very consistent here. Kyle Busch is pushing it at 5.5. That's a pretty fair projection for me on there. Kevin Harvick, we kind of talked about him as kind of being. I don't think a sixth or better is off board. If you're going to play him this week, that's where I think I like playing him as a sixth or better at one of his better tracks. Like I said, he's won 4 of the last 5 races here. Been absolutely amazing here. So a sixth or better, I like better than playing him on DK or FanDuel because I don't think he's going to be a dominator. And I think he's going to, just like we talked about with Kyle Busch, these guys are going to need dominator points to kind of give you that 5 to 6x return that we're going to need from these top price guys. So going down the board a little bit, a couple of values that I like. It's pushing it with Kurt Busch, but I do like that. He's finished better than that projection in 6 of his last 7 races here. So I think that's a way we can go. And then in terms of even going a little bit lower, Christopher Bell only needs a top 10. That's kind of, I'm probably going to shy away from that. But Matty D, we didn't talk about him as like a DK play starting 4th. I think that's a little bit risky in terms of DraftKings and FanDuel. I see him as more of a 10th to 15th place car. That's perfect for PrizePicks. He only needs a 16th or better. That is one of my top 2 or top 3 overall plays on PrizePicks for tomorrow. I will post my top 2 or 3 that I'm going to run in my lineup in chat, probably about an hour before lock tomorrow. Going to be working on them tonight, but those are some of my top PrizePicks plays. Any final thoughts before we take off, Dane?
Yeah, I guess, and I understand kind of the thoughts on Logano, but I guess my hesitation with him is that if you're playing him with Larson, are you hoping it's a one dominator race? Because I just don't see Logano dominating a portion of this race. I know he feels safer because he's starting 19th. And if he finishes, say, 5th, yeah, it feels really good and safe. But is he going to be in the winner if Larson leads the 100 laps and then you got anybody else leads 50 to 75 laps? I mean, is that enough? And let's compare that.
So Larson 100 is 70 points. That's going to put him over 6x. Let's say Hamlin is one, gives you 50. That's over 6x. So those two for sure would be in the winning lineup. Now, say Logano gets third. Logano actually for 5x only needs an 8th place finish. To get into that 6x range without any dominator points, he needs a third. So if he finishes third with 6x, I think you could see a winning lineup of Logano, Hamlin, and Larson. Same if that you switch that Hamlin out to Truex. I think you could for sure, even with a top 5 finish out of Logano, I think he would be in the winning lineup, to be honest with you. Any of these, Byron, Logano, or Keselowski, with a top 5 finish, no dominator points, I think is enough to get you into the optimal lineup. Maybe not GPP winning, but at least top 5, top 2% of winning lineups in big tournaments. Like Byron, for instance, 51, he's probably going to get a fast lap in there or something like that. So a 6th place finish for Byron. So these guys are hitting pretty big numbers at pretty reasonable projections. So it comes down to, I don't think you can play all 3 of them. I think we'll see a lot of lineups with all 3 of them. Probably cash games, we see a lot of people going with 2 or 3 of those for sure as a cash core. I don't play a lot of cash games in terms of NASCAR, but in terms of safety, like you mentioned there, they do give you that safety because they can have let's say, just an average race and finish 5th to 10th, and they are not going to kill your cash game lineups because they're still giving you 4 to 5x return on that. So that's the way I look at those guys for sure.
Yeah, I was just trying to wrap my head around the number of dominators that I'm going to build for when I play, and I was or when I build, and I just didn't know if I was going to make some teams that were one dominator only. Like I felt like if you have Larson, Logano, but I like what you're saying. You have another dominator in that build, and it
Mhm.
does fit with some of those value plays. But you have two guys that can dominate the whole race if Larson doesn't dominate entirely.
Right.
Um, but with what we've seen this year, he could. So
Yep. And then that's an instance. I just built a lineup here with Larson, Truex, thinking that they're going to, let's just say they're the top two dominators and they lead three quarters, 150 laps, three quarters of the race. And then you get, say, third to fifth place finish out of Logano. I think those three for sure are going to be in your optimal lineup if that scenario happens. So this is kind of the way I go about building my cores of my lineups is I want to put together how the race is going to go. Just like I do with football or any sport when I'm building lineups, I want there to be a reason why I'm rostering a guy, and I want there to be a correlation between all of them kind of working together. You don't want to roster everyone that's starting top five because they just kill each other's dominator point potential, and they're not all going to make it in the same lineup anyway. So put those three together, and then we go down to Alfredo. It's a pretty chalky lineup, I think. And then this is where you can go a little bit different, and you can go with a busher if you want. You're left with 6,850, so that leaves you a couple options. You go with McDowell. I think that's going to be popular in there as well. But with McDowell, you can now go up to Reddick or Priest or Chastain, like we talked about, possibly being lower owned, sitting in between those place differential guys. So there's still a lot of ways you can go, and I think this is probably going to be a core that I'm going to run 5 or 6 times. Those three, or at least Larson and a second dominator and Logano. I don't know who that second dominator is yet. Again, Truex is my favorite second dominator at the moment, but I might just mix and match that core of Alfredo, Larson, and Logano with a second dominator 5 times and another second dominator 5 times, or 4 and 4, whatever the comfortability level feels like in the morning.
yeah, so I was just playing around too. Last thing, and then we can hop off. But I think some of the builds, and I will have exposure to Logano for sure. But some of the builds that I'll have him, and even Byron falls into the same category. I think you can make some interesting looking teams with one dominator builds, and that one being Kyle Larson. And then you don't need necessarily, if Larson's leading the entire race, then those place differential plays of Byron, Brad, and Joey look a whole lot better than the other guys that, like Kyle Busch, like Chase Elliott, Martin Truex. In that situation, that Larson leads the entire race or most all of it, then some of those place differential in the top range look much better. And you
Yep.
can definitely pair some of those with like Christopher Bell or Austin Dillon in a little more of a balanced type build.
Yep, I'm with you there. And then I wanted to go over what the lineup would look like over on FanDuel here real quick. So I wanted to get Larson in there, and even with the Logano build. So it's a little bit different build here because of the needing 5 drivers. But I usually don't go down too low. And again, finishing position is a little more important. So I was really looking at this battle between Reddick and Dillon because I feel like they're not going to be super, super aggressive in that they're going to get themselves in a spot that they're going to regret. I think they're kind of going to have a fairly top finish. I do like Reddick a little bit more for only $1,000 more. Then we got to get another cheap guy in here if we're going that route with these two top guys. Busher, I like a little bit better on FanDuel. That starting position isn't as, I guess, hurtful. You can go Alfredo, but that's not really a play I like on FanDuel, just simply because we're only looking at maybe a 25th as his top. We do need that finishing position a little more. So if we can get these cheap guys that can give you a 10th to 15th or 15th to 20th even at these low 4K prices, I think we can go there. McDowell can make sense at 4K, and then we can go up and actually do a extreme stars and scrubs where we get 3. Now we can get Harvick, Hamlin, or Elliott. You kind of got a choice, or if you want to get Byron in there. So if you feel Harvick's the top 3, been dominant here, there's a FanDuel lineup where you get possibly 2 dominators, or if you wanted to go with Truex, we can go that route. Maybe take out Reddick, and you can go down and get your Chastain, or that is where Austin Dillon fits in, which I mentioned, Reddick and Dillon. So there's 2 lineups that you could go. So that was Dillon and Truex, or Reddick and back up here, Elliott, Harvick, Hamlin, or Byron. So you got a lot of choices there with that core. That's probably my favorite core build with FanDuel this week. So we went over PrizePicks, DraftKings, FanDuel. I don't see any more questions in chat. It was awesome to get to talk NASCAR with you again here. Not mainly. One of the major reasons why I'm happy to have you back, I don't have to sit here and people don't have to listen to me ramble for an hour straight. We actually get to get someone else's opinion on the live show as well. So thanks for joining me. I'm glad we did this Saturday night. And let's go build some lineups and make sure to hit us up in chat if you got any more questions, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, good luck, everybody.